We've got some problems in the reef tank, so today we're going to the fish store to see if we can get some fish and inverts to clean up a big problem. And I absolutely love what we found. Today is step one in dealing with some pretty severe uglies going on in the reef tank. Not looking too great. If you've seen any of my recent videos, you might be able to tell it looks a little cleaner despite all of the hair algae on the rocks. So I went around and cleaned off the back wall. We really don't have any cyano in here right now. What we do, however, have is some awful hair algae. The tangs are not interested in it.
Nope.
We have some snails, we have one conch, we have one tuxedo urchin. So today is step one in dealing with this eyesore in the tank. Not really an issue other than it's sort of starting to smother the corals and it obviously is not really pretty to look at. So let me tell you why this happened and how you could prevent potentially the same issue. So all of this popped up pretty much around the same time that I had all of my chaeto in my refugium die for some reason. I've had chaeto for years. Never had any issues. You know, it would pretty much double in size every month and I would take some out. And when you have lower nutrients, it doesn't sort of grow as fast, but I was dealing with low nutrients, and then all of a sudden, within like a week, all of my chaeto melted. So with low nutrients, I was starting to dose sodium nitrate to get my nutrients back up because the corals are starting to look a little pastel. Nothing was really that affected by it. Nothing really was doing tremendously well with basically zero nitrate. And I think my phosphate was around 0.03. So everything's low. So I'm dosing nitrate to bring that up to the proper level. Chaeto melts basically within a couple days. So we have a giant nutrient spike and then no macroalgae to deal with any of the excess nutrients that are building up. What's the fastest thing to take all of those nutrients and elements and organics in is the hair algae and whatever algae I've had in the past. And I really have not had that much algae. I'm not 100% sure why at one point I didn't have much algae, but I know right now there's not much to eat it. And we had a giant nutrient spike, I'm sure, when all my chaeto died. So that just let something else take advantage of all those nutrients, and that was hair algae. So I've got a few options. I could either add more cleanup crew, more fish, and either supplement that with manual removal, which I was already doing that. We've added a tuxedo urchin, and he's doing great. He's running around in here, eating as much as he physically can, but he is small.
But it's becoming increasingly obvious. I can deny it no longer. I am small.
It's definitely time to add more cleanup crew because I don't want to go and rush off to get fluconazole or some other chemical treatment to fix this problem. Now I could, and most people have suggested, to use a fluconazole, REEF Flux, REEF RX treatment, things like bryopsis, prevents them from being able to metabolize in some way, and so it dies. And that should be the only thing it affects. It's like a fungicide, which I don't really prefer to use chemicals if I don't have to, which is why my solution is getting critters to deal with it. And if that does not work, we will end up going to fluconazole because I need to get this under control, and without having it under control, I don't see a way out of this. So step one is getting more critters to eat this algae, and step two is getting more macroalgae. Once the invertebrates or whatever cleanup crew, fish we might get for this start consuming this hair algae, it's gonna turn it into more nutrients, which then we need to either remove or turn into another kind of algae, which we'd prefer, like a more chaeto, dragon's breath, something we can grow in the refugium, which is what I had been doing until it all melted. So we're gonna go out to a fish store and take a look, see what kind of critters they have, invertebrates or fish, that we can get to hopefully make a dent in this hair algae mess. And when we get back, I'll show you guys what we got, and we'll introduce them either into the tank or into quarantine, depending on what we find. So let's go.
Much later.
We are back. We have a box, we have something acclimating in the sump, and we have a mystery over here. The last one is not saltwater, but if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that we have a ranchu tank with only a single ranchu at the moment because its buddy, who he had for a little while, passed away, either because of poor genetics or something. He just was not growing. I did treat them for internal parasites, and that did not help. He ended up passing away. So this guy's been pretty lonely. I'll show you guys what we got for them later in the video, but right now, let's get into what we got for the 125 reef tank to deal with all of this algae. We did find some really good stuff, I think, for this tank, not just invertebrates, but a fish that I have wanted for a while, and it's not always guaranteed that they don't eat LPS coral. So the one I got is a little tiny guy. It's a venomous fish, if that tells you anything, but it's cool. So worst case scenario, it tries to eat our LPS coral. We will have to move it to another tank, but it's pretty easy to do since the guy's pretty small. So we have a mystery fish, 2 invertebrates for the tank, which I think are going to be a great addition, as well as a great cleanup crew, and a bonus freshwater bag right here. And I will be quarantining all of the saltwater fish we get for the 125 in the future, because all of these fish I've had for a really long time, and I would hate to lose any of these guys to a really terrible disease like velvet, Brooklinella. Most everything else you can pretty much deal with in the tank or by catching them out and treating them in some way. But velvet, Brooklinella, those things are the worst, and you can pretty much guarantee that the fish doesn't have those if you leave the fish in just observational quarantine for a few days, 3, 4, a week, something like that. And you might think, well, what about ick and what about stuff like that? I didn't quarantine any of these fish for ick, so there's not really a guarantee that there isn't ick already in this tank. And a few years ago, I was really sure that the tanks had ick because after a random day I came out here, the hippo had some spots on him, and I think the sailfin had a few spots as well. I treated that with not really an ick treatment as much as an oxidizer. It was a treatment by, I forget, it was this right here. I used this with, I guess, some success because I never really had any issues after I finished the treatment. So we're gonna have this new fish in quarantine for a few days, and then I'll post updates once he is ready to go in. I'll make a new video or post on my Instagram, putting this guy in this new tank. And hopefully, he should be a pretty good algae eater from what I have heard. This fish does munch on all different kinds of algae. And I still need to get these 2 guys out of this cooler and get them acclimating because they are gonna go straight in the 125. It's awesome that the fish store had exactly what we came in there for. We didn't end up getting any snails today, but we did get 2 more things that I think are gonna be even more beneficial than snails. We're gonna start drip acclimating them. We're gonna let these guys acclimate for about an hour, about 1 drip per second. And after that time, we're gonna get them straight in. I'm about to show you guys the saltwater fish that we got, but before I actually kind of want to reveal the mystery freshwater fish. So that's what we're gonna do. In the Ranchu tank, we now have 2 more Ranchu. So this is one of our original Ranchu right here. Cute little guy. He's definitely doubled in size since we got him, but he's just been really lonely in here with only his pleco friend. And so he definitely needed some friends other than the white cloud minnows and his little pleco friend in here. We got him 2 new Ranchu buddies. So we have one white one, and the other one is a nice gold bronze color with a dark top. I'm not actually going to quarantine these guys. I do actually want to, in the near future, treat this whole tank just to be cautious of any internal parasites, because you never know exactly what the Ranchus should look like because they're always so bloated. And this guy occasionally has some lumps on his side, which end up going away after a few days. It could be related to feeding or gut issues, but we're just gonna put the new fish in and then we'll treat everyone together for anything that they might have. Everyone looks healthy though, and all of the fish in the store also appeared to look healthy with no dead ones or anything out of the ordinary. So these guys have been acclimating in here. We're gonna get these guys in the tank. It's just been so sad having one single Ranchu in this 54-gallon tank. It's like the saddest thing that he didn't have any friends. So Brittany and I could just not turn away from these guys. They're so cute. They were an obvious choice. Let's do by hand. That's much better. Let's do the white one first. There we go. 1. Oh, he's so pretty in there. So nice and white. And this little fat guy. Go. Now we have the trio, our little original guy, and these 2 new additions. We're definitely gonna need some names for these guys, so drop them in the comments. Individual names would be appreciated because the YouTube algorithm loves when you spam the comments. Leave as many comments as humanly possible. That would be appreciated. Now that we have 3x'd the fish in the 54-gallon, it is time for saltwater fish. Now, we're going to take our saltwater fish over to our quarantine tank so we can get a good look at this guy, even though he's a little stressed right now. We're gonna get him out of the bag and into this cup so we can take a good look at him, and then we're gonna get him into his quarantine tank. We do have the lights turned off above the tank, just the ceiling lights on, so it shouldn't be too bright for him. If you know what the color on a fox face is supposed to look like, they're gonna have a yellow and black pattern. When they are stressed and nervous, they're gonna have this blotchy looking pattern, which still looks pretty cool to me, but he's definitely showing some signs of stress. So we're not gonna leave him in here too long, just enough to take a look at him. And also, he is temperature acclimated, but we are going to add a little bit of the water from the quarantine tank into his container in order to slowly adjust the pH and anything else that might be slightly off other than the temperature. We'll give this guy a few minutes and do that again. And the reason for doing that is, one, the salinity is off from the store. I keep my salinity a little higher. We want to make sure that the salinity change isn't too rapid. So we're just going to slowly add some water every so often over the course of about 20 to 30 minutes, and that should be just fine for this guy. We are going to put a few pieces of PVC in this quarantine tank, so he has some places to hide and places to feel safe in there. A few different options. He's not going to be in here for more than a few days, so don't worry, the tank's a little small. It's just for observation for a few days to see if he's got any disease we need to treat. In that case, if we're going to treat him for longer, we'll move him to a bigger 10 or 20 gallon tank, just so that he has a better experience, just so that he's not quite as stressed. But this is a bigger tank than he was in at the store when we bought him, so he should be perfectly fine in here. He has enough hides, the temperature and the water is right. So this guy is going to do just fine in quarantine for a few days while we make sure that he doesn't have anything contagious that he's going to pass on to the other fish in the 125. And then once that time, a week or so is up, and he's not showing any signs and he's looking healthy, we're going to move him right over so he can get to work eating all the algae and growing up nice and big in the reef tank.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, by now I think we should be good to get this guy into the quarantine tank. And I don't want to handle this guy because he has venomous spines, but I'm also not sure if he gets stuck in the net. So we're gonna hope that he doesn't get stuck in the net. We're gonna net him out and get him right in. Right, here we go. Do this very gently. It might take him a minute to find a spot he's comfortable in. And again, his color will get better in probably just a few hours. So in a little while, we'll get some shots of him when he's all colored up again so you can see how he really looks. He looked great in the shop, and I had them feed him right in front of me so I could see if he was eating. He was eating great. He was really going after the food. So I don't think we'll have any problems with him at all. I'm just gonna turn the lights out on this side of the room so he can hang out in here and chill for the rest of the evening without any stress and get settled in. All right, these guys in the bucket are acclimated, and it is time to show you guys what it is time. It is very purple right now. It is time to show you guys, well, I can't escape the purple. It is time to show you guys what we got. In this white bucket are 2 urchins. One is a white pincushion urchin, and the second is this beautiful red pincushion urchin. I believe they're pincushion urchins. This one's definitely a pincushion, although I have never seen a red one before. So today, we now have 3 species. Well, I guess there's 3 species, assuming these 2 are different species. Pincushion, blue tuxedo, and this red, potentially pincushion urchin. 3 urchins now to tackle this algae mess. We're gonna use my method from last time, collecting some sump water. We've got a net. We're going to scoop them out, and then using tank water that they've been acclimated to, we're going to rinse them off and then get them in the tank. We're gonna do the white one first, gently moving him off the side. Got him. Take some of our water. Rinse the net, rinse him. Getting all the water that he was in off of this guy. I'll just have to put this guy in the tank and then show you in a second. And then number 2, my favorite. This is like such a cool urchin. Blood red, giving him a rinse, rinsing the net, rinsing him. Sweet. Into the tank. I just put the other one right here, and he is hauling. 1 white, 1 red. These guys are at least 3, well, the red one is at least like maybe 3 or 4 times the size of the blue pincushion urchin that we already had in here. The white one might be twice the size. These guys look really active. Let's see if I can wait for that one to flip over. The peppermint shrimp, like, what's that? Oh, nothing, just a useful invertebrate. In just a few days, I'll give you guys an update how the reef tank is getting along with the urchins. And then when we put the new fox face in this tank, hopefully the urchins will give a good head start. We might have to do a little hand removal of some of this algae, but then once we put the fox face in here, he should also start eating some of this algae. So it shouldn't be long until we have all this taken care of, and hopefully we don't have to use any chemical treatments. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're enjoying this content, please subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you know as soon as I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys soon.